Hello, hello. What's going on, everybody?
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening. Maybe we should say that when we come on stream. Just, good evening. I need to practice my Vincent Price voice.
He's so ghoulish sounding.
He is. He's a little more nasally like this, isn't he? I don't know.
Yeah, it's a little. Yeah, I think you're right. It is a little higher, but like he just sounds so creepy sometimes.
Cool. All right. I'm going to let you keep track of the comments while I do some colorings.
All right.
Yeah, it's so crazy to me that Vincent Price was known for doing all these horror movies, and he's also on Ten Commandments.
Yeah.
I love his acting, though. He's just such a great actor.
He's very fun to watch. Very charismatic on screen.
Yeah, he looked like he had lots of fun doing all those roles.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, I don't think I showed you the previous pages.
Oh yeah.
So let me break those out.
As much as I can see it on my tiny screen.
Yeah. When you get that married internet.
Yeah. What did they call it whenever like they had to bribe somebody to get married to their daughters, like a dowry or something?
Yeah.
Like dowry internet.
Sounds good. So I'll zoom in here.
Yeah.
So this is page 17.
That came out nice. I like that top panel.
Nice. Center panel.
Mm-hmm.
And final panel.
Very nice.
Yeah. So yeah, so that's what I did there. And then let me show you page 18.
Nice. I like that. That top panel's awesome.
Thank you, sir.
Like that glow.
Then the creature bursts from the ground, right?
Yep.
There he is.
Mr. Bitey.
Snarf. That's what I imagine he's saying.
I imagine him sounding like Bobcat Goldthwait.
What's going on, guys?
I was just walking around and I saw a hole.
Kids nowadays can appreciate that because they don't know who that is.
Look it up.
Plebe.
Yeah, it looks awesome. I like that.
Cool. All right, and then the last panel here.
Last panel, yeah. Break through the ground. Very cool.
Yeah, is this? I couldn't tell with the texture here. Is this supposed to be water or snow?
Yeah. So it's supposed to be water.
Water. Okay.
Yeah. Well, so like the ground is flooding with water. So as the ground breaks, the water just kind of floods down like a stream next to him.
Okay. Yeah, I did kind of look in between, kind of like a little bluish, a little whitish, like it's supposed to be snow, but I wasn't really sure.
Yeah, I mean it would be freezing at this point because it's being exposed to the outer air, so that's fine.
So yeah, so that's that last panel there.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so yeah, so now we're on to page 19.
Very cool.
Very cool. Normally, I have tea when I'm doing stuff like this at night. It's like just to give me a little bit of a pickup. But
Mhm.
tonight, I am having hot chocolate Swiss Miss.
Oh my god. You're going to be in a good mood.
Yes, yes. 2 drinks that make me happy: hot chocolate and coffee.
Mm.
Those are my happy waters. All right. Do you call it hot chocolate or hot cocoa?
Chocolate.
All right.
I think it's a more northern thing to call it cocoa. At least I always thought it was.
Yeah. It sounds pretentious. I don't know why.
It does. You can just say chocolate. I know what you mean. Cocoa is a little too, I don't know. I think you're right. Pretentious is probably the right word for that.
It's not just me. You feel the same way about cocoa.
Yeah.
It's agreed.
And sometimes they'll say just like cocoa, not necessarily hot cocoa.
Yeah.
And I get that. It seems redundant to call it hot cocoa because you obviously wouldn't just be drinking powder in a mug.
All right, but how specific do you want to be? Like, I'll have cocoa in some hot water or some hot milk, stirred until
Yeah, that's
smoothly blended together in a
at
ceramic
that
cup,
point.
preferably with some
That's just a
marshmallows.
that's just a Starbucks order, right?
Yeah,
Like, the more specific you get, the more it sounds like you're ordering it at Starbucks.
yeah. And my name is Craig. All right, Janine. No, I said Craig. I heard you, Janine. It's not even close. This is Starbucks. What do you want?
Have you ever had that issue where
Nah,
like they get your name wrong? They
nah,
never
but
write
it's
my name on it.
yeah. Well, they do mine,
Yeah.
but yeah, they never gotten it wrong.
Mm.
Which is weird because like I'll talk to people at like when I was going to school and stuff, and they'd be like, "What's your name?" And I'd say Ben. They'd be like, "Oh, hi, nice to meet you, Dan." I'm like, "No, I said Ben, Dan, like, buh, and
That's awesome. I've never heard anybody mess up a 3-letter name
right."
before. Not even close.
Granted, it's like right before class, so everybody's chit chatting a little loud, but
Yeah, I guess.
but still, we're like 2 feet away from each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, jerk. So, how has your week been?
It's been all right. Lots of lots of relaxing from drawing. We're only like the third day of November, but as much as I do love doing like the Inktober, Drawtober, whatever stuff,
Yeah.
it does get like a little demanding on my focus. Like I'm thinking about it all day. Like, what's today's prompt gonna work out to?
Right.
So it is a little nice to have that break where I don't need to be thinking about it. But I'm using the momentum. I started drawing the outline or not the outline, the like the thumbnails, for the next story,
Yeah.
a werewolf story.
Nice.
So that's what I'm working on now.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. How was your week?
Yeah, it's been all right. I've been, working, and then on my lunch breaks, I'll do some writing. And while I'm working, I'm usually listening to like stuff about writing.
Yeah.
I'm trying to learn everything that I can.
Yeah. There's a lot to learn.
It really is. Like
I
so
never
many,
would have thought.
yeah, I know. Now, and like so many different people have like so many ways to do what they do. You know,
Hmm.
there's not just like one way. I mean, a lot of similarities between everybody's process, but um, usually like everybody's approach is a little bit different.
Yeah.
And so many story structure types out there too.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's fun. It's interesting. I enjoy learning.
Hmm. You know, one thing about listening to like writing podcast stuff, it always gets me in the mood of like watching those movies that they're talking about because they hype it up so well. I'm like, yeah, you're right. That is a good movie. I did watch that movie.
Yeah, yeah. I was listening to this one guy today talk about Collateral, and I remember watching that movie,
Yeah.
and I mean, it was okay, but like the way this guy talks about it, I'm like, man, did the writers really do all that in there?
I don't remember it being that good.
Yeah. So now I want to watch it again, but I know I never will. But I kind of want to, like you said, when I'm listening to them talk about it and they're like hyping it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was on Netflix. It came on Netflix a few months ago, and I was like, "Oh, I should watch that movie again." I don't remember if I liked it or not, but I thought the premise was interesting, but I just never got around to watching it again.
A movie that a lot of these people talk about too is Crash, and I've never seen that one.
Crash. Oh yeah, that one won like a bunch of awards when it came out, didn't it?
Yeah, was that the one that was written by Paul Haggis? I can't
Yeah, I
remember.
think it was.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it had a huge cast too. I remember thinking like, that's too many. That's too many people in that movie. How are you going to focus on any of their stories long enough to care about the characters or the actors? But I never saw it, so I don't know.
Okay, I was gonna ask you, did you see it?
No, no, I never did see it.
Yeah,
It
so
seemed like a drama, and I just at the time was not interested in watching like a character dramas or character study dramas.
yeah, yeah. So I've heard that it's like the focus is on the detective,
Hmm.
and I guess there's like a dead boy involved that they're trying to like solve his murder,
Hmm.
and so there's lots of actors and lots of people in it, but they're all like witnesses or people that were there when it happened.
Yeah.
Anyway, it sounds interesting. I'd like to check it out sometime.
Hmm.
Watch any movies since we last talked?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I think the last movie I watched was Fright Night. That was Halloween night.
Such a good
Um,
movie.
it really is.
I think Fright Night and Lost Boys are just great, like '80s horror movies.
Yeah.
Wait, was Lost Boys in the '80s or was that the '90s, early '90s?
No, no, it's 80s.
It is
I think
okay.
it's late 80s, but it is 80s.
Okay.
I want to say like 80. 88 maybe. Maybe I'm misremembering that, but it's in the later era. Yeah, another thing about Fright Night too. I haven't seen Lost Boys in a while, um, but Fright Night is the pacing is like so good. I forgot how good it was. And there's never like a wasted scene. Like everything feels like it moves the story forward just a little bit, just enough to keep you invested in it, I guess.
Yeah. Man, I really want to see that movie again now.
Fright Night.
Good acting.
Mm-hmm.
You're so cool, Charlie Brewster.
Oh, Brewster, you're so cool.
Yeah.
I can't stand it.
What was his name? Evil Ed?
Evil Ed, yeah.
Yeah, he's a interesting character.
He's an interesting looking actor. He looks like a chihuahua.
It's like a pet dog.
Kinda, but I think that's probably what they were going for, is a weirdo looking kind of kid, so you could believe that he's been bullied at school.
Kind of drove him to becoming a vampire.
Yeah.
Accepting their dark gift.
It's weird because like watching it, you don't get a whole lot of setup for that. Like in the newer Fright Night, you get a bigger setup for Evil Ed being like rejected and picked on and bullied and stuff, even by his friends.
Yeah.
But in the old one, like you really don't get that. Like you get that he's Brewster's friend, and that Brewster calls him Evil Ed. He doesn't like being called evil. But other than that, like you really don't get a sense like he's picked on by like other bullies in the school. I don't know if that was a scene that was cut or something or what, but it's really more like the actor in the moment that he's being offered the chance to become a vampire. Like it's in that moment that you kind of see like, oh, okay, yeah, he is tired of being bullied. He's tired of being kind of walked all over or whatever. So I think you kind of get the story from that. But outside of that, they don't really show him being picked on in the movie.
That's really cool. So it's more like a show don't tell kind of thing, huh?
Yeah,
You
it
just
is.
see it in the way he dresses and the way he acts. Like he's an outsider.
Yeah, that's another cool thing to think about is like the vampire was able to pick up on it. Like he's maybe read people long enough to know, like, to understand them when he sees them. Because
Yeah.
at that point, he only knows Evil Ed for maybe like 5 minutes when he goes to his house with Peter Vincent to prove that he's not a vampire. And in that moment, like, I guess he sums him up, or he sizes him up accurately. He meets him later and he's like, I'll make you a vampire. No one's ever going to laugh at you or pick on you or call you names ever again. And that's like enough to just crumble Evil Ed right there. And he's like, okay,
Let's do it.
let's do it. Let's go.
Make it so number one. Yeah, that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Good acting that you have an actor that can sell it, you know.
Yeah.
And good writing to recognize that you don't need to flat out say it. And that's one of the videos I was listening to today was talking about on the nose dialogue.
Yeah.
And how a lot of young writers, they want to state the obvious, like this is this, and instead of saying, well, what's a different way of saying that same thing?
Right. They don't trust the audience or the director or the actors enough to get their point across.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like back when you and I used to listen to a lot of music and stuff, and we're really into songwriting and the lyrics and stuff, and recognizing like, oh, this is really cool how this song, like they're saying "I love you" without saying the words "I love you."
And yeah, I think it was Third Eye Blind. I think especially we were listening to at the time when we were listening to like Stephen Jenkins. What's it called? Background.
Is it the background? Yeah, you're right.
I
Where it
think it's
says
background.
the words I use so lightly, I only feel for you. Oh yeah, that's like a long roundabout way of saying I love you.
Yeah, it's a
But
more meaningful way almost of saying it.
right, yeah. And because it's said differently, it sticks out, becomes more memorable because it is different.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, funny you mentioned that because I was studying Gene Colan's work earlier this afternoon after work, because I kind of want to make this short story feel like the old Marvel horror stories. So I'm going to try to adopt some of his work in there or his style.
Nice.
But yeah, I was reading it's Tomb of Dracula #1, and I was noticing how much the writer says and how much Gene Colan would draw, and like where they would meet and where they wouldn't meet.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. It's Marv Wolfman, um, but if the writer is conveying like a certain feeling that you can kind of pick up, Gene Colan wouldn't draw like the facial expression. He'd focus more on the atmosphere.
Mm.
And I was like, that's interesting, and that's like I wouldn't even thought of that. But like never write what you're drawing and never draw what you're writing. That kind of
Yeah.
idea. Like you don't, like you said, you don't need to be redundant with it, but it's also like that really big trust thing of between the artist and the writer.
Yeah. Well, this person that I was listening to, that was giving the lecture on it, was talking about how we rarely say what we feel,
Mm-hmm.
and because people just in general have a hard time sharing their feelings, trusting each other to share their feelings,
Right.
and so not that we say the complete opposite, but we usually dance around what we want to say.
Right. We rely a lot on context and subtext.
Yeah. And hoping that the other person reads our mind or something.
Yeah.
Like, if you really care about me, you'll know what I mean. Like getting a
Well,
fight
if
with
you don't know, I'm not going to tell you.
exactly like getting a fight with a girlfriend. Like, what's wrong? Nothing.
Oh, it's something. I know it's something now.
Yeah, I'm taking all these notes. I'm like, okay, when I write my scenes, I got to make sure when I start writing dialogue, like, I keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Of course, she was also talking about how, like, but you also don't want to like go the other way completely and be so flowery with your words that you're not really saying anything. You know,
Yeah. You don't want to lose the audience either.
right?
what do you think has been the I don't know, maybe like the biggest like revelation for you in learning how to write or learning about writing?
I think the importance of structure, because
Yeah.
it's something that I never really cared about before. Like when I first started writing, I was like, I'm just gonna tell my stories, right?
Yeah. Right.
And it's something I really thought about. Um, like I just figured, beginning, middle, end, tell my story,
Hmm.
which is true to a point. But I started thinking of it in terms of art, like drawing, visual art.
Hmm.
Like some people have talent and can pick up a pencil and draw what they see, and they start drawing people, and maybe they can sort of get them pretty accurate. But teach those people with talent structure, and like their careers will skyrocket, right? As an artist, like their skill will just improve that much more.
Right.
And so, like, even people who aren't that skilled in art, if they learn structure, their skills will improve. And I
Hmm.
remember listening to Marco Bucci talk about how like hard work will outdo skill eventually. Like it'll overtake it eventually if the skilled person never practices. If they just rely on their talent. I mean, now I'll say skill, but their talent.
Yeah.
And so, like thinking about it that way, I was thinking about, it's true. Like I need to learn how to tell my story, sure, but then also put a structure underneath it, because that will help form the story even better. That'll give it more of an impact, I guess, um,
Hmm.
to the reader. And so that's one of those things, I guess, that I never really thought too much about before. What about you?
Honestly, all of it. Um, I never knew how much there was to writing. Um, like I always assumed like it was a lot of work, but I never knew what kind of work, like what kind of a hard work it went into it.
Yeah.
Um, and so like just learning like how much goes into picking your theme, your genre, and like how much like your protagonist, you don't just pop it in there. You have to craft the story around the protagonist or craft the protagonist around the story so that it makes an interesting, compelling story. Um, like that was a huge lesson for me. I was like, you can't just like, but like Dragon Ball Z, you can't just Dragon Ball Z. You can't just Transformers and like have these guys like smash into each other with their fists. No, like you gotta make it matter to the characters so that it matters to the audience. The story has to mean something ultimately at the end of the story. So I think for me that was one of the big lessons. But yeah, just like the whole craft of writing is very it's very impressive to see someone navigate it, like to be able to like intelligently talk about it, like they understand what they're doing. I'm like, that's cool. I
Yeah.
don't think I'll ever get there, but like I'm enjoying the ride learning.
Yeah. And that's the other thing is it's one thing to talk about it and to get, like, you hear somebody talk about it, you're like, oh, I get it. But then like to
Yeah.
put it into practice, it's like,
Hmm.
oh, what did he say to do again? It's like,
Yeah,
let me
yeah, that's
listen
another
to
thing.
that
Like
10 more times.
and that's another thing, like listening to it and then like hearing it, like, okay, that's fine, but it doesn't how does it apply to my story? How does it apply to this particular situation? I understood it in the context he was talking about in the movie he broke down, or a couple of movies they broke down, but like I don't understand how it works for me. And maybe it's an issue of the story is too close to you, or maybe it's an issue of like you just kind of get lost in the weeds of other things of the story that you feel like um, are as important or more important than the structural lesson that you're trying to learn. I don't know what it is, but yeah, um, that's what it is for me. Like I'll listen to it and I'll understand how they broke it down in the movie that they were talking about, the example, but applying it to my own story is like I don't know what you mean. Like What do
Yeah.
you mean?
Yeah, and there's been some things that are just like that I hear, and it's like, okay, I know that by instinct, but I
Mhm.
didn't know how to articulate it.
Yeah.
And like that, and what you said earlier was one of the big ones. Like, if it doesn't matter to the character, it's not going to matter to the audience.
Hmm.
And that one's like stuck with me ever since I heard that.
Yeah.
I think that was that Abby Emmons who said that.
Yeah. I actually just started listening to her playlist again for like the new writers to kind of flesh out your story.
Yeah,
I started listening to that I think yesterday or 2 days ago. I don't remember. Because I was going to get to writing a new story, and I was like, oh, before I start getting into the story, let me bone up on like all of the fundamentals again that she talks about. And yeah, that was one of the things that was in there, and I was like, yeah, okay, I got to keep that this time. I got to remember that.
yeah. I feel like that's a fairly easy one to remember. It
Yeah.
it's like I said, it sounds so obvious, but people miss it because I mean, look at Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
There,
I don't want
what was the plot of that movie? Like,
to. That you're sexist if you didn't like that movie.
no, and I don't mean it that way either. Like, I'm not trying to be mean about it. It's just
No, yeah, and
like
it's something we had, yeah,
yeah, like there was nothing that she really learned.
right.
Like
And
why
that
was
was
it?
the
Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say that was the big thing for me whenever I saw it. I was like, well, she didn't really learn anything. She didn't have a character arc in that movie. Um, and that kind of prompted me to think about other movies where the main character does not have a character arc. They kind of stay the same throughout the movie. Like if we're sticking with Marvel, Captain America, the first Avenger, he
Yeah,
starts a good man and he ends a good man. He learns things, I guess, but ultimately he doesn't change as a character. He's willing to die for his country and the people he cares about in the beginning, and he's willing to do it again at the end.
yeah, but I feel like that there's a difference because there's a different type of hero. Oh, excuse me. So you got your character arcs, right? Like the hero's journey,
Yeah.
the guy that needs to learn a lesson before he's able to move on and grow.
Hmm.
But then there's a different type of hero, and it's not one that's talked about a lot, and it's the catalyst hero. And the reason he's called a catalyst hero is because he's a catalyst for the characters around him to grow.
Yeah.
Superman, for example, is a perfect example of a catalyst hero. Like, you shouldn't write Superman with a character arc that like he needs to learn to be a better person or anything like that. He's
He's good
already
again.
a better human than most humans are.
Right.
And so it's about him being a component of change for other people. He's a catalyst of change in other people's lives. Like, he's
Right.
showing you the example. And I feel like Captain America was kind of the same way. He's a bit of a catalyst hero, where he is like the epitome or like the patriotic American,
Hmm.
and he should be pulling other people up to his height,
Right.
to his level of goodness, moral standards, I guess.
Right.
And so I feel like it's not necessary for a character like him to have that huge of an arc.
Okay.
But with her, like, she didn't. When you talk about Captain Marvel, like, who did she help?
Hmm.
Who did she inspire? Like, Captain America inspired the soldiers. Like, he was a USO person, right? He's just a cheerleader when they sent him out there, but then he actually joins the fight, and all of a sudden he's like this symbol of America, of hope, of
Oh, yeah.
never giving up. That's why he's got that thing, I can do this all day.
Hmm.
But Captain Marvel, like, who did she inspire in that story? Who around
Right.
her did she help grow? and I can't think of anybody.
Yeah, well, and that's another thing is like she doesn't spend enough time with anybody to do that. Half of the movie is her not knowing who she is.
Yeah.
And like the people that she does know in the first half all turn out to be bad guys.
Except for Nick Fury.
Except for Nick Fury, but all the work's been done for Nick Fury in the past, 9 movies at that point. Hmm. And I heard this critic talk about it whenever it came out. They said, like, I think the main reason I didn't care about that movie was because Carol Danvers didn't care about anything in that movie. Like, she
Yeah.
spent half of that movie not knowing who she was and not knowing or not caring about any of the characters besides herself
Right.
because she didn't know them. She didn't remember them. How could she? It wouldn't feel genuine even if she did. And ultimately, once you get to the end of the movie, she defeats this bad guy, but it wasn't the challenge of her life to do it. It wasn't like the impetus of her story or anything to defeat this bad guy like at some point. So ultimately, it was written without any real heart behind it.
Yeah.
I think he said it's something to that extent. It's been like 8 years since I heard that. But I was like, that's a very good point, and that explains why I didn't really care about the end of that movie. I think up until then, I was really just saying like, I guess it wasn't for me. Like, I wasn't the target audience. Obviously, it was like Wonder Woman. I wasn't really the target audience of that movie. I enjoyed most of Wonder Woman, like at least half of it. But yeah, I guess I didn't care for it because I'm not a girl or something. I don't know what's wrong with me. I didn't like that movie. But yeah, it just
Sexist.
yeah, probably what it is. I'm too much of an istaphobe. Um, but yeah, I don't know. But yeah, after hearing that guy talk about it, I was like, like that's a good point. Like I didn't care about that because she didn't really care about it. I cared
Yeah.
about Captain America because Captain America cared about everybody in that movie.
Yeah.
He was very selfless. And it's like you said, he is like this icon um, in that movie for like hope and the human ideal, not not necessarily physically, but or not just physically, but it's about the compassion he feels for his fellow man.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to kill anybody. He just wants people to stop dying. He doesn't like bullies. I think that's the line.
Yeah. There you go. It's like bullies, homie. Don't play that.
Homie, never been about that.
By the way, I listened to that John Whelan stream that you sent me. That's funny.
Did you?
Yeah. Speaking of homie, don't play that.
Homie definitely did play something. What was the last movie that you saw?
Last movie that I saw, I think it was No One's Going to Save You.
Okay.
which we talked about. I mean, that was a good movie, but it definitely had its problems at the end.
Yeah.
It bothered me, anyways. It probably didn't bother a lot of people, but it definitely bothered me because everybody's talking really positive about it, and
Mhm.
like I said, I liked 90% of that movie. It really was good, but the landing just didn't stick for me.
Yeah.
And I think it's for those reasons that we talked about. It's like she didn't really learn anything.
Hmm.
It's like her wish was granted, and everybody forgot what she did.
Hmm.
So, what's your werewolf story about? There gonna be any
Um,
words in that one, or
well, you know what? It is also 10 pages, but I think I can break Malin's record.
gonna go for like 10?
I'm going to go for 11
Go for
because I'm going
11.
to go the other way with it. He went under one. I'm going to go over one.
Ah, gotcha.
Let's see how many I can pack in there. Considering I don't think there's any black people in this, I'll see what I can do. I feel a little out of place.
Yeah.
But if it sells, it sells.
Certainly does. Who would have known? Or who would have thought?
Only John Malin would have had the foresight for that.
Cracks me up. No, so what's your werewolf story about?
Oh, yeah. There's a real question there.
Yeah.
Sorry. So it's going to be a 10-page story about this guy who is cursed with something. He doesn't know what it is. He starts feeling this like presence ever since he gets back from a anniversary vacation with his wife. And he starts noticing there's this like shadowy figure following him around everywhere he goes. And every day it gets a little bit closer, until it gets to the point where it's been following him all week. And the closer it gets, like he starts seeing that it's got these like monstrous details about it. Like from far away, it just looks like a humanoid shape. Closer it gets, it looks more and more like a beast, but it's got this gold and black mask. It's just covered in rags. It's very ominous looking, very mysterious looking. And then once it gets closer, he sees that it's like this creature looking thing. Like he still can't really make out what it is, but it drives him crazy. He goes home like screaming about it, raving about it. His wife doesn't know what's going on with him, and she can't see this thing that's chasing him, that's getting closer and closer to him, until eventually it gets right next to him. He can't avoid it any longer, and he changes into a werewolf. And then there's a twist at the end of it, and I'll let the readers figure out what that is. But That's kind of what it is. So it's a little bit of a psychological thriller with this creature.
Nice.
You know,
Twist is he's the N word.
so far scripted there are no N words, but we'll see what kind of sound effects I put in there.
Yeah. Yeah, we want this to sell, so keep that in mind.
1,000 copies, first day.
I like it.
No, another thing I'm going to get to practice is my inking. So it's not just the pencils that I'm going to be practicing, but I've also got Tom Palmer to look at for inks
Nice.
because he did all the Tomb of Dracula work, and it's really beautiful stuff. He was one of my favorite inkers on Buscema whenever he got a chance to work on him. I feel like he adapts to the style of the penciler really well.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think didn't he ink over somebody on ASM?
Palmer, probably.
Was it Larson?
I don't know
maybe?
who it would be. Maybe.
I feel like it was before Bagley came on, because I think Randy Amberlin was Bagley's inker. Because I remember seeing that name quite often, and Amazing Spider-Man is the only book I remember buying like a lot of.
Yeah.
Spidey was my boy. So I've seen images, I don't know if it's true, maybe you know, of Captain Marvel, like back in her Miss Marvel costume.
In like current comics?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Some people are saying it's not going to last, but
Mm.
but yeah, I think it's like an ultimate version of her.
Oh yeah, yeah. I heard they were doing another Ultimate run of Marvel. I didn't know that she was back in her costume though in that universe.
Yeah. Apparently. Yeah, I saw a page. Like it wasn't a lot of pages, so it was just one page. Which is cool.
Yeah. They are probably right though. It may not last, but that's pretty neat.
I'd say something's better than nothing.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm at work, I'll be watching videos and I just won't pay attention when the video's over, like the new stuff, like the next video will start playing.
Mhm.
And because I've listened to so many reaction music videos in the past,
Mhm.
like sometimes those will pop on. And I had a couple yesterday and a couple today that were like somebody reacting to Beastie Boys music videos.
Yeah.
And like I was never a huge fan of theirs in the past. Like,
Mhm.
I'm like, yeah, like I like Sabotage. It's a fun song.
Everybody likes Sabotage. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, but I never really paid too much attention to them,
Mhm.
But like listening to these reaction videos, I started looking up like Beastie Boy videos and like playing those. Like I went to their channel and just put like their videos on.
Mhm.
And she's like, man, I don't know why I wasn't into them back in the day. Like they're a lot of fun. It just wasn't my like type of music back then.
Yeah. I like the music video for Sabotage. That was a fun video.
Yeah, I also like the Intergalactic Planetary. That was a lot of fun too.
Yeah.
The big robot fighting the monster.
Mm-hmm. They're wearing their spacesuits.
Yeah.
I like Sabotage because it reminds me of, rather, I like the Liberty Mutual commercials. They remind me of Sabotage.
The Limu Emu.
Emu and Doug.
Yeah. And Doug. Yeah, those are good commercials. I really enjoy those. I don't know why.
Hmm. Hmm. Have you heard the rumor that they're planning on bringing back the Avengers that all died
Yeah.
in the movies?
Yeah, because their movies are failing.
Yeah.
I have heard that.
That's a bummer.
Yeah, like I really thought they were going to go into the Thunderbolts stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like that would have been cool. Like
Probably not with the way they're writing it, though.
Yeah, like obviously they ruined it. They missed their chance to do that correctly.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would have been really cool.
It would have been cool if they had done things correctly, but here we are.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? Reboot.
That's the answer to everything. It is a classic case of them not understanding what's failing about their movies, though.
Yeah.
If they think it's the cast, which granted the cast isn't always great, but that's not the reason it's not doing well.
They're banking on getting those member berries. Hey, remember when Avengers was
You
awesome?
liked our movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember when you gave us all your money so you could see these guys? We're bringing them back for you.
Good times, right? Hmm. So, what was the last good movie you watched?
That's a good question. What is the last good movie I saw? Let's see. Like in the theaters or just like on TV?
In general.
I don't know, dude. Like honestly, I really can't think. I can tell you the last really good show I watched,
Yeah.
which would be Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
I'm rewatching Psych right now, which is a really good show.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, as far as movies go, I don't know. I was thinking about that. What about you?
The last one was probably Fright Night because that was the last movie I saw, and it happened to be a very good movie.
Yeah.
Before that, I think. I don't know. I think before that, the last one that really made an impression on me was Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The 1974, 72 movie.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
That reminds me. Oh, just a side note, real quick. Tubi has the thing from outer space or whatever it's called, the original, the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's on there.
Cool. You gonna watch it?
I need to watch that. Yeah, I was gonna watch that the other night, but it was having trouble loading, so I decided I'd just go to sleep instead because it was already getting late. But sometimes I just kind of search on there because I didn't realize how many movies they actually had on there and like documentaries. I watched like 3 documentaries on there. 2 of them were about Stanley Kubrick, which
That's
is
interesting.
a whole other thing. Yeah, that dude's really interesting. I finally got to see the documentary Room 237 or something like that. 232. I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah,
But yeah, I finally got to see that.
that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Stanley Kubrick stuff is like that's a whole other rabbit hole you can go down
Yeah.
of conspiracy theories and secret societies.
For sure. I watched Eyes Wide Shut a few months ago. He was on Prime or Netflix. I don't remember. What a weird movie. Uh,
Yeah,
um, like the movie itself is like, okay, yeah, I get it. Like it seems kind of shallow in terms of like its meaning and stuff. Like, yeah, okay, he learns his lesson. All right, that's enough of that, I guess. But like I started watching this like breakdown, like these breakdowns on YouTube of Eyes Wide Shut, and like this is the actual meaning behind the movie, and this is what people think he was talking about, and this is why he chose um, the music he did. Like he actually played a part of the composition of the score. This is why you hear this particular tone because it has 9 keys in it, but they like the uptones and downtones, like it all means something. And I'm like, okay, this guy. I know Stanley Kubrick had like a really high IQ, and I understand he's like a perfectionist. He's very very intentful with everything that he does. I don't think intentful is a real word. He's very intentional with
yeah,
everything he does on screen. But like when you start looking at all this stuff and like how they tie it together and how they're like, I can show you proof on how like this is what he was actually talking about and this is what he meant, and you're like, oh, okay. There's like 6 or 7 other movies in there that I didn't watch while I was watching that one movie.
yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty interesting. So those were interesting documentaries.
Yeah, like all the spaceships that are supposed to be in
The Shining.
The Shining, yeah,
Yeah.
and a certain room number that means something.
Hmm.
And did he have anything to do with Hotel California, or am I just making that up?
They didn't mention it if he did.
Okay,
That wasn't one of them. So it's probably like that particular documentary is like 5, maybe 6 different people that they're interviewing at once. Throughout the movie, they kind of jump back and forth between these interviews that they all have a different perspective on what the movie is about, what The Shining is about.
okay,
So it's 9 parts of this documentary. I mean, each part is only like 10, 15 minutes or something like that. So, but I think it's 9. Might be a little bit less. But it's the first chunk of it is just getting to know where each of these interviewees were coming from when they saw The Shining for the first time. Like some people had like a long history in film. Some people just, liked movies at the time. Some people didn't even like it the first time they saw it, but then they watched it again and they were like, "Oh my God, this is a masterpiece. I never realized it before," whatever.
right,
So like it's got like all of these different backgrounds for these people watching it, and then the rest of the movie is them kind of each taking their own little bit to say, "This is what the movie is about, and this is why I know it's about this." Because if you look at this scene, with this scene, and you kind of like they start picking it apart, and they're not wrong. Like they're showing like legitimate scenes in those movies and how they connect to each other, and you're like, okay, yeah, it's like super easy to draw that line if you want to. And so for like 4 or 5 people to do that with one movie, and all of them are kind of right, like that's kind of impressive that there's that many levels of thought being put into The Shining. Like one guy said, this is about the extermination of the Native American in in history or whatever because of the white man. And I was like, okay, show your work. So, and he does. He shows his work. He shows like this is like, notice how Stanley Kubrick does this. And I know it was Stanley Kubrick that did this. He like composed this scene himself. He didn't tell the prop master to do it. He did it himself because there's pictures of Stanley Kubrick like rearranging things and facing them towards the camera, facing other things away from the camera, facing things a certain direction. And they're canned foods, right? It's whenever they're walking through the storage freezers. It's like all of the Native American paintings that are on the wall and like who they were, who the Native Americans were. It's all this other stuff, like the designs that you see, like the way that things are placed in their the compositions of the shots. And I was like, okay, so you go to another person and it's about how, what is it? It's another one was the moon landing. I will say that out of all of them though, that one seemed the most reachiest. That was that was the most where I was like, I get it, but like you're kind of leading me a little bit here.
Yeah.
So room 232 is supposed to be the studio in which Stanley Kubrick shot the moon landing. The studio 232 or whatever.
Yeah.
What was the other thing? Oh yeah, there's a speech that Jack Nicholson gives to his wife, where he's talking about what a contract means and how like these people won't accept failure on his part or something like that. Like he can't break the contract; it's an agreement. And what he thinks he's saying is he can't talk about the moon landing because he has an agreement. He has a contract with these people, and they're dangerous. Mm-hmm. So there's, like I said, you can draw those lines if you really want to. There's not no evidence for it. It just seems like out of all of them, it's the most reachiest one, I thought.
Right.
But really interesting documentary, though. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, sounds like a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. I didn't know that Kubrick's IQ was like 200.
Oh wow, I didn't know that either.
Like I knew he was intelligent. I didn't know he was like genius level intelligent.
Yeah, I mean, it's very. It's a valid conclusion to come to that he was putting all these layers into these movies.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I really want to cover something like that, conspiracy theory stuff, when I do
tinfoil,
yeah, like create this made up director and he's trying to tell secrets behind the scenes. Whoever is intelligent enough to pick up on his clues.
Yeah. Like breadcrumbs.
Yeah. Yeah, I just think that'd be really fun to do.
Yeah.
So many stories I want to tell, dude.
I know.
So many. I need to win the lottery.
Mm.
Give me my millions.
Yeah. Oh, but yeah, to answer your question, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That was the probably before the uh, what is it? Fright Night was the most interesting movie I saw. I had never seen it before.
Friday Night.
No, Texas
Oh,
Chainsaw
Texas
Massacre.
Chainsaw Massacre. Okay.
Yeah. Now, Fright Night I have seen has just been like 20 years since I've seen it.
Yeah.
Now, I watched the 72, 74, whatever, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Um, Very impressed with it. I can see why it's got like a cult following kind of feel to it. um, for not really showing much gore, they were able to like psychologically mess you up in that movie.
Yeah.
Like the scariest parts of that movie are not with the guy chasing you with a chainsaw. They're with the or one of the characters walking around the house and seeing like all of these like little animal bones tied together hanging around the house. It almost felt like Blair Witch or like The Ritual, that kind of stuff, where you see like these like pagan looking things just like floating around, and it's just deeply unsettling because you just know something died in here. It's probably a person. Um, but yeah, that was a good movie. After that, I watched Netflix. I think did a Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I didn't hear about it, probably because it wasn't very good. But they did one last year. I think it was either 2021 or 2022, where they bring back the girl who survives at the end of the 1972 Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they based that movie off of Ed Gein, right?
Yeah, I think so. That sounds right.
The guy who was collecting bones and making furniture out of them.
Is that what he was doing?
Yeah.
I've heard
Making,
his name, and I just always assumed he was like a serial killer. I didn't know what he was doing with bones.
no, yeah, so he was like taking body parts, making furniture at home.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I think he did kill some people, but I think for the most part, he was like just robbing
The bone
graves.
collector.
Yeah. Bone collector. I don't know why I
This
said
guy's
that.
a collector.
Yes, there you go. That's the line that was I was reaching for but couldn't find.
From the movie Bone Collector.
Yes.
Um, yeah, yeah, creepy movie. It reminded me a lot of True Detective in the way it felt, because the killer in that show has like a similar house where it's just like full of junk. It's like very dirty, lots of bones and weird symbols all over the place. He's adopted the like persona of the King in Yellow. Just a very creepy show, and it's one of my favorite.
King in Yellow.
Yeah.
Good old Haster.
Yeah, the actor they got for that show to be the bad guy or the killer, like that dude, he reminds me like of Vincent D'Onofrio because he's like a huge guy, but he acts really just passionately. He's a good actor.
Who's the actor?
But I don't remember his name. That's the thing. Like I don't see him in much, which is a shame because I think he would be really good at some other stuff. But there's this one line at the end of that show where like they've got him cornered and he's in this maze that he's kind of like hunting them, and it creeps me out every time I hear it because he's talking to Matthew McConaughey's character. And he says, "Oh, wait, how does it go?" He says, come out, little priest, come die with me." But he says it like in such a creepy tone, and I don't know if how much they're altering his voice to do that, but it sounds like they're not. It sounds like that's just his voice. But he sounds possessed whenever he talks. Like he's supposed to be, I think, schizophrenic, or bipolar or something. He's got obvious mental conditions. He's a serial killer.
Right.
But whenever he slips into that persona, he gets this like real deep evil voice, and it creeps me out every time.
That sounds cool. So I want to ask you, what's with all these little cross marks on here?
Oh, let me see. Cross marks.
Yeah.
So, all of the lines that are going to the left, those are bullets flying by.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
And then all of the lines coming down are water.
Okay. I see now.
Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just seeing like a bunch of little crosses everywhere. I was like, what's that? Now I see.
This is page 19.
Yep, page 19.
Okay. Almost there, man.
Yep. Another question: when they get out of this place, does the time change? Is it daytime now, or?
Yeah, it's like sunrise. Like you can see like the dawn coming up a little bit.
Okay. So like rose-colored skies would be all right.
Yeah.
Frio frijoles.
Mhm. I like that. It looks like an old G.I. Joe comic there.
Yeah, it does. G.I. Joe.
When was the last time you watched The Predator?
It's been years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love that movie though.
Mm.
Billy.
Dylan.
It's funny.
So let me ask.
Hold on. I was just gonna tell
Mhm.
you, like, you know how I've been watching Psych, right? There's an
Yeah.
episode where Carl Weathers comes on,
Yeah.
and and they're talking to a victim, and she's like, "He was bleeding" or something like that, and he's like, "If it bleeds, we can kill it." He's like, "No, no, we're not gonna kill him." But yeah, I just thought that was a funny throwback to Predator. But go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Yeah. No, I was going to ask you. Can you break down that movie? Do you think the way you can like a non-horror movie
Predator?
in terms of like, we you say Dutch is the protagonist?
definitely. But it's been so long since I've seen it
Mhm.
that I don't know that I could remember any kind of details of his ordinary life to be able to tell you this was his arc or anything, because I don't remember
Mhm.
like too many details about when the movie first starts, like before the mission and all that.
Yeah.
What about you? Do you remember?
I remember most of that movie because it's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah.
But um I was watching Jill Chamberlain in a different interview yesterday talk about like protagonists and all this stuff, and I started thinking about like, well, I don't know if this works for every movie because like horror movies, I don't know if it works for like those, at least not all of them.
Mhm.
And I thought about Predator, and I'm not sure that I could put this format on there. Now, granted, I don't know all of the points of like the nutshell technique.
Mhm.
I just know like the couple that she talked about, and I don't remember if she mentions all of them or not. But like I don't know what his story arc would be. um, I'm not sure that he really has one. He loses all of his friends. He gets out of there like barely alive. But in terms of like what he wants and what he needs at the beginning, then maybe he gets what he needs at the end. He wants to do good, right? Like so the movie opens with him and his team taking out a group of like local like guerrilla terrorists or whatever that have like taken up in a village. They're holding the village hostage. So they go in there, they beat up the bad guys, they kill most of them. Arnold says stick around when he throws the machete into the dude's chest.
Well,
Um
hold
they,
on a second, because you're forgetting the part when he gets the team together, right? Like before he gets to Carl Weathers.
before he goes, oh yeah, sorry. Wait, so
That would be like
no, because they
his. Oh, go ahead.
hold on. Because something's bugging me. Like maybe I don't remember this entire movie then. Because I swear they do a mission and then they get back to base, and that's where Carl Weathers is waiting for them. And then
Does
Carl Weathers, then he gathers the team together and says, "I need help getting this politician out of uh, the clutches of these bad guys or whatever." And he's like, "All right, fine, we'll do it, but we're not hired guns. Like we liberate villages from terrorists or whatever." And he's like, "I just need you to do this for me." It's like an old time sake kind of a thing. And then that's whenever Carl Weathers takes them to that other village, and that's whenever
okay.
they take out a bunch of more bad guys, but then they save that woman, and that woman is the one that knows the lore, and she's the one that builds the world for them.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess I wouldn't consider Predator a hero's journey type story either, though.
Yeah.
It's more of a survival story.
Hmm.
Like it would be like a man versus nature type thing, but only this nature comes from another planet.
Yeah, but
So
like even in those movies, the man learns like humility or humbleness, or like he learns to respect nature or something like that.
yeah,
And in this one, he's already full of respect. He like very reluctantly takes on this mission. He
yeah,
rejects it almost at first, and then he gets talked into it. And he's like, "Okay, Dylan, I'll do it." And then he goes, and then that's when we get
yeah,
his journey, his adventure.
yeah. And that is like a typical hero's journey
Hmm.
thing where you reject the call at first, and then you accept the call, the call to adventure. Yeah, I'm trying
Yep.
to. I really don't remember the beginning enough to be able to tell you. Well, this is like a certain thing that he says at the beginning, and that's why it's an arc for him.
Hmm.
I mean, is it again because I don't remember. Is there a line in
Sounds like
there
you're
that
gonna
says,
watch it
like,
again.
yeah, no? Does he feel like he's the best? You know, is there like hubris involved in his arc at the beginning?
He, no, I don't think so. No, like he's reluctant to take on the mission because he says like we're not assassins. We're not
Yeah.
we're not that kind of team. Like he's actually pretty not humble, but like he's got a conscience about it. He doesn't kill just because he's good at it or he likes it. He kills because he has to. He's almost like
Yeah.
a hunter.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's been so long since I've seen it.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to watch some breakdowns of that movie, see if somebody can pick up something I'm missing because I don't know that there is that classic arc. Or like you
Yeah,
said, like
and not
he inspires other people around him because everyone else dies.
yeah, and no, this isn't like your typical movie either. It's like an '80s action movie where story was secondary. Like it's all about the fun and popcorn flick kind of movie. Like all the Van Damme movies. I mean, you're not
Yeah.
gonna tell me that those things were like works of art when it came to the script writing. Same with Steven Seagal.
I don't know. He's got a pretty big arc from being just a cook to savior of the United States.
I'm just a cook. No, I'm just a chef. That's what he says.
Get the shit. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that I guess no, it doesn't apply to everything. The nutshell technique,
Mhm.
especially if like that type of story structure wasn't around, wasn't on their mind.
Yeah.
And there's a place for that. Not everything needs
Yeah.
to have um, the type of hero or protagonist that we're talking about.
Mhm.
It can just be dumb fun.
But even for being dumb fun, it was executed intelligently. Like
Definitely.
there's so much in that movie they got right, whether they meant to or not.
Yeah. No, it's a thriller. You know, it's like it keeps you on the edge of your seat. Is he going to survive this thing or not?
Hmm.
Good movie. My favorite Schwarzenegger movie, I think.
Yeah.
Second, or I was gonna say second only to Jingle All the Way, but no, I like Predator better than Jingle All the Way.
It was basically the same movie.
Basically,
Instead of Predator, it's Sinbad.
exactly.
Hmm. What about Way of the Gun? How much do you remember that movie?
Mm. Maybe enough.
maybe enough.
Maybe enough. Yeah, I've never really thought about.
Would you say that? Yeah.
But I say what?
Oh, would you say that the pregnant woman is the protagonist, or would you say it's um, the two guys,
I think it's the two guys.
or somebody else? Yeah.
No, I'd say it's them. 'Cause, looking at the nutshell technique, they kind of fit into it um, pretty easily because what is it they want? I mean, they want money because you see they're selling their goods at the bank, right?
Mhm.
Because they find out you can make lots of money that way,
Right.
and it's when they're there that they overhear that this pregnant lady's there, and there's lots of money involved.
Mhm.
And so, what do they want? They want money. So they put themselves in that situation. So they're the instigators of their own of the whole movie. They instigate their own trouble.
Right.
They're the ones who bring hell on themselves.
And they do get what they want.
Yeah, they get what they want, but it comes at a price. Man, they really have to scrape and fight for it at the end. And doesn't he take the money away from them at the end, actually? James Caan. And they're all shot up. Are you there? Hello?
You hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right, cool.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, sorry about that. I guess I lost internet for a little bit.
Gotcha. No, but yeah, didn't he James Caan take away their money at the end?
Yeah, he takes away the money.
Yeah, so really they don't get what they want.
Well, they
Although
get what
they
they
want-
want in terms of like they got. Yeah.
They want changes because they do end up wanting to protect the girl at the end, the baby.
Mm-hmm. That was a very interesting movie. The way it all unfolded, even like towards the end, like it just kept unfolding into these new connections.
Yeah. What about you? How would you break it down?
I would say like I think you're right. Like they are the protagonists because they are the only ones that I know of that have like a meaningful arc in there. They go from being very selfish and very I don't know, nihilistic almost characters to being almost not guardians, but like they seem to genuinely care more than they expect to for the woman and her baby.
Yeah, it goes. They go from having a
I think
selfish want in the beginning to having an unselfish want.
Right. And then yeah, like what they want is to kidnap the woman. I would think like it is ultimately like the money, but like and they get that thing coming to them, and then it just the catch is, it's all of the attention of that money. It's all the attention of what they've done. And then yeah, I guess I don't know how much further I can break that down. Like that's about as far as I understand it. Because then it starts going into like the Abby Emmons kind of idea of it, where like you get your low point, then your aha moment, and then you kind of come back up. Which I would say that it is. They do learn a lesson. They do have a positive character arc, so it does steer more towards like a comedy in that respect. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Does James Caan have a an arc at all? I feel like no, but
Mm,
not one that I remember.
he's kind of put into a position because like nobody knows that that's his daughter
Yeah,
until like the end is kind of revealed. Because wasn't she doing it for them, like so that he could retire from
yeah,
that life?
yeah. So he could retire. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Um, and I don't know. I think he does kind of soften up because he could have killed those two guys,
Yeah,
but instead he lets them live. I mean, what's left of them by
he
the
just
end?
doesn't finish the job. Yeah,
Yeah,
he's got my favorite line in that. Until that day.
yeah. The Bagman. Yeah, it's such a great movie. Yeah, there's so many characters in that too.
Yeah.
So many B stories that crash into the A story at the end.
Hmm.
Like it all kind of culminates.
It's funny because as complicated as it gets with all of their relationships, you never really get lost in what's going on though,
Yeah,
because you have like the surrogate mother and the wife of the who's supposed to be, I guess, the father of it is having an
should
affair with the bodyguard, and
yeah,
and it turns out that the surrogate mother is like the daughter of the bagman or whatever, and you've got really interesting like the doctor of the surrogate mother is the father, the actual father of the baby, and it's like this whole mess between them. But it adds more interest to it. It doesn't complicate or confuse the plot.
yeah. It's like a really quick novella because there's like so many relationship stuff going on.
Yeah, that's a good point. It is.
Like an action novella.
What would you say is the point of no return in that movie?
Um, Probably when they get into their gunfight at the hotel the first time. Like they probably have an opportunity there to like return her,
Yeah.
but they don't. And so it's like once they realize, because that's when they realize too how deep in they are.
Hmm.
Because up until that point, they really don't know. So it's like once they realize how bad it is, I think that's like the point of no return. Like once they realize we messed with the Chitticks,
Yeah.
like it's no backing out.
Yeah, because that's whenever they get the sniper, right? There's a sniper on the mountain
Yeah.
or the hill. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love the familiarity with each other. You know, like they understand each other.
Yeah.
The two guys, like, there's not a whole lot of dialogue, but they get where each other's coming from. They know how to work with each other.
Yeah.
I love all that. Yeah, it's another great movie I'd like to watch again.
Yeah.
Best part is watching Sarah Silverman get slugged in the face.
Opening. That's how you catch your audience. That's the hook.
That's the hook. Punch Sarah Silverman in the face. I'm in. I'm in for the long haul.
Take my money.
Yeah, that was so unexpected. When I first saw that, I was like, what? He just punched the girl. I like these guys. All right. I'm calling it Dunzo for now.
Okay.
Still got more work to do on these two panels, but
Mm-hmm.
let's get in there.
Very cool. Yeah, it's looking good, man.
Thanks. Alrighty. Go ahead and save this. And it's only been an hour 49 minutes. It's not bad.
Yeah, not too bad.
I feel like I get a lot done when we're streaming like this.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, I'm gonna end the stream here. Thanks everybody for watching, for hanging in there with us, listening to us jabber about movies and writing, watching me color. All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.